All right. Can everybody see my screen? I see nods. That is awesome. Perfect. So I'll go ahead and get things started. Again, as I said earlier, I'm Bree, the community coordinator for GOSH, which GOSH is just an acronym for Gathering for Open Science Hardware. And I'm joined today by Kafid, who is our GOSH AfricaOSH liaison. So cool. I did want to start out first with a little bit of an overview of what we're going to talk about today. So I'll go ahead and give some background on what GOSH is and how it's organized. Then we'll talk a little bit more about some of the GOSH events, such as the GOSH Gatherings, which is typically our biggest event of the year. We'll also touch a little bit on some of the publications and funding programs that GOSH has done this year, and also take a closer look at some of the regional open science hardware communities, such as AfricaOSH. And then I will also discuss how to get involved with GOSH and share some resources for new members or anyone that would like to get more involved with the community. Before we start immediately talking about GOSH, I did just want to have a slide that talks about what open science hardware is. Not everyone is familiar with the term, so I like to go ahead and explain it before I explain what GOSH is about to kind of set the context. But yeah, I pulled this definition from the open source hardware definition put out by OSHWA, and I will restate it now. So science hardware encompasses the tools and machinery that we use for scientific endeavors, for example, a microscope or an environmental sensor. And open science hardware refers to any science hardware that is open source or free to use, change, study, and distribute. Now that we've talked a little bit about what open science hardware is, I'll tell you what GOSH is. So what is it? It is an international community of open hardware makers, but also activists, academics, artists, and more. It is not just hardware developers and software developers. It is a wide and broad array of people that are in the GOSH community, and that's what makes it so great. And it is a truly international community with people on nearly every continent except for Antarctica participating in the community. GOSH is also just a group of people that are dedicated to dedicated to the open science hardware movement. So again, dedicated to making the tools and machinery that we use to do science open source or free to use, change, study, and distribute. And by making science hardware open, that means that more people can have access to the tools that we use to do science. And our biggest goal as a community is to support the advancement of open hardware and make open hardware a little bit more mainstream and widespread, make hardware something that more people are familiar with. And it's also, GOSH is of course centered around its annual gathering for open science hardware, which will be discussed in a little bit. But here are some photos of attendees at the past gatherings, having a great time. All right, next slide. So I do quickly want to discuss a little bit about the GOSH community governance structure. So essentially GOSH has a community council that's responsible for governing the GOSH community. It oversees and delegates all tasks, questions, and issues related to the governance of the GOSH community. And it also coordinates some of the funding programs that GOSH has done, such as the regional events and collaborative hardware development programs, which again are two things that I will touch on later on. But yeah, so the gist of it is that we have this community council that governs the different activities that GOSH would like to do, helps determine where funding is going to go when we have funding for projects, and all sorts of cool stuff like that. But yeah, so elections do happen every year. We elect new members to the community council. And actually right now we have an election going on. So if you'd like to register to vote or nominate a candidate, I have those links in the presentation and I'll go ahead and drop them in the Zoom chat as well. Perfect. Boom. Put the registration link in the chat if you're able to see it, great. If not, I will be sharing this presentation back with you all after the webinar today so that you can go through and click on any of the links that you'd like, learn more about different resources. There's all sorts of fun stuff you can go through in this presentation. But cool. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the GOSH roadmap. So we have got this lovely, amazing roadmap that guides all the actions of the communities, what we need to be doing to make open hardware ubiquitous by 2025, all sorts of stuff. That that last thing that I said of making open science hardware ubiquitous by 2025 is actually the biggest overarching goal of the GOSH community. We want to make this widespread. We want more people involved in it by 2025. But in order to do this, we need some more tangible, some more reachable goals as well. So this roadmap includes all sorts of tasks and action items related to creating an institutional and funding support structures for open hardware, preparing guidelines for designers, funders, and newcomers, engaging and broadening the open science hardware community, and of course, excuse me, creating a common pool of open educational resources and mentoring programs. Just going to take a little sip really quick because I got a tickle in my throat. Perfect. So that was the roadmap. And then I am going to talk a little bit more about the GOSH gatherings. So I mentioned this earlier, how every year we have a gathering where hardware developers, software developers, artists all across the globe get together to talk about open science hardware. So a lot of the work that's been done previously in GOSH has mainly just been centered around these gatherings. The first one was in 2016 in CERN in Geneva in Switzerland. And that gathering led to the creation of the GOSH Manifesto, which outlines the guiding principles and values of the GOSH community. So that manifesto is great. It's short. I think we've got almost 500 signatures on it now. So it's a great way of kind of saying, hey, this is what we are. This is what we stand for. The values that guide us as a community. After that 2016 meeting, the next one was in Chile in 2017. And it was there that the community came together and created that roadmap that I just mentioned and outlined actions and steps that are needed to make open hardware ubiquitous by 2025. After that, we had a gathering in Chile, or not in Chile, in China, in Shenzhen in 2018. And then after that, we were going on a break. In 2019, there was a break with no physical gatherings. But of course, with the COVID-19 pandemic, it turned out that break was going to be a little bit longer than just 1 year. So from 2019 to 2021, there weren't any physical gatherings, but the community was very active virtually and engaging with each other as they continued to work on actions from the roadmap. But in exciting news, the 2022 gathering will be in Panama. So from October 26th to 29th, there will be, oh, I'm sorry, I think I'm hearing someone else. I'm not sure if they're muted or not. We're good. Anyways, the next gathering will be in Panama from October 26th to 29th. And applications have closed for this, but we're excited to keep you all posted as the gathering comes closer and as we continue to plan more gatherings in the future. All right. So aside from just these kind of bigger GOSH gatherings that happen every single year, GOSH also has some smaller community events that happen each month. And they're kind of there to just help the community better interact with each other, especially when everyone is all over the world and we can only connect virtually. It's good to have a reason to come together and talk about open science hardware and just check in with each other. So some of these things that we do each month is we hold open hours, which are twice a month, and they're held by the community coordinator, which is me right now. And it's an informal standing hour where you can come ask questions about GOSH if you're new to the community. You can catch up with others from the community or just check in and say hello. I love finding out where people are from in the GOSH community, talking about the projects that they do. So yeah, open hours are a really relaxed time where you're welcome to ask any questions you'd like about GOSH. Aside from that, we do have community calls that are a little bit more structured and facilitated. They're held once a month and typically feature 1 to 2 presentations from community members. And there's also time to ask questions, have a discussion, and just give general updates on what's going on with GOSH. So community calls are a fantastic way to find out about other open science hardware initiatives and projects that are related to the GOSH community. And another smaller activity that is open to anyone in the community is the book club. So a group of us usually meet about once a month, every 2 months. If it's a longer book, we take 2 months. And we just discuss a book that we wanted to read together and decide on the next reading. So that's a little bit more about the community events. So we kind of went over some of the events, kind of what GOSH is. I'm going to move over now and talk a little bit more about some of the publications GOSH has put out in the past year, centered around the community and open science hardware. So the first one that GOSH has put together is the framework for running community events. So this was based off of all of the previous gatherings that GOSH has had. Previous organizers came together, wanted to document the knowledge that they have of organizers of this conference. So that way, if anyone else wants to have a GOSH event, whether it's regional, global gathering, anything like that, we kind of have this basis for how to run it. So the biggest purpose for drafting this is that it's a way to capture what they call the GOSH spirit, the openness and the collaboration that occurs at a global gathering, and how to kind of replicate that at smaller regional GOSH events. So this is a really, really cool document. It's got over 100 pages of information on how to plan a GOSH event, how to run a GOSH event. And it also has a series of 23 profiles on GOSH community members who have been to past gatherings. And they all talk about what made GOSH special for them, the GOSH spirit, and just what knowledge they had in attending a GOSH and also running a GOSH event. So if you're interested in having like a local community event centered around open hardware, open science hardware, definitely recommend reading this. It's got so much information from the basic logistics to kind of how to set up an unconference structure with just a limited agenda. So yeah, it's a really cool document. And then we also last year, GOSH, throughout March and July of 2021, they had several writing workshops, and it actually resulted in a series of policy briefs and write-ups centered on science hardware. So the first writing workshop, of course, focused on the role of open hardware and technology transfer. There are about 15 practitioners and tech transfer officers that joined, and the result was all the way here on the right, this policy brief titled "Open Hardware is Ready to Help Technology Transfer Offices Maximize the Impact of Academic Research." After this TTO open hardware one, we did a second writing workshop that was focused on open hardware and international policy. This one had nearly 30 policymakers from across the globe come together, and it resulted in this policy brief all the way on the left this time, titled "Open Hardware, a Key for Accelerating Science and Technology Goals Towards the UN Sustainability Development Goals." So that was the second one. And then after those two policy briefs were finished, we wanted to engage with research funders. So throughout June and July, a series of salon-style meetings to explore open hardware with funding institutions, those took place, and it convened about 20 research funders. And these meetings, the purpose of them was to connect people who are doing open science hardware, these makers, activists, things like that. We just wanted to connect them to broader funders of the open research and open science movement. I have a cat that's trying to step on my keyboard, so I'm going to scoot away from him really quick. Anyways, the result of having these conversations with funders, we put out a series of write-ups that provided a summary of what everyone was discussing, what funders were talking about, all sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, so those were some of the policy briefs that were produced in 2021, but in 2022, we just closed a call for more applications for support for writing workshops. So we should see some more writing workshops in 2022. I'm sorry, cat, you can't step on my keyboard. There we go. Okay. So I do also want to talk a little bit about funding programs. If those of you in this call are on the GOSH forum, you've probably seen a ton of posts about these different programs, but I did just want to quickly explain them really quick to anyone that isn't familiar. So essentially this year, GOSH had for the first time ever, had its own funding rounds for funding regional GOSH events and also funding open science hardware projects. So on the left side, I want to talk a little bit more about the regional events funding program that happened this year. And that basically is just for groups of people that want to host a open science hardware event, workshop, conference, anything, any sort of get together aimed at supporting open science hardware. And it was exciting that the rounds for this year, we will see regional gatherings from Cameroon, Argentina, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, and much more. So we're really excited about all of that. Yeah. And then on the right, we have the collaborative development program. And this is more centered around doing open science hardware projects, having mentorship for them, all sorts of stuff like that. And yeah, it's for organizations and groups that are working on existing or new open science hardware projects. And the aim is to build collaboration, not just between hardware makers, but also with industry experts, groups, and organizations. So those two programs have unfortunately closed for 2022, but you can see what they're up to by going on the GOSH forum and checking out some of the forum threads. A lot of the regional events have been talking a bit on the forum, so it's been exciting to see their updates as they work towards having their regional gatherings. Another really cool aspect about GOSH is that there's several regional and self-organized GOSH communities. So we have AfricaOSH, which we'll get to in a second, and ReGOSH, which is based in Latin America, and also Great Lakes GOSH. So these three examples are kind of these more regional, localized open science hardware communities that are based in different regions of the world. And they're great. We have a lot of communication between GOSH and these other communities. And so the synergies and fusion of sharing knowledge together is pretty exciting and pretty fun. But I do want to talk a little bit more specifically about GOSH and AfricaOSH, how they've worked together and what that relationship kind of looks like. So I am going to pass it off to Kafid now on this next slide, who is the liaison. Kafid, please feel free to share a little bit more with the audience.
Okay, thank you, Bray. I hope you can hear me. Okay, yep. Perfect. So GOSH and AfricaOSH has been working along, starting from our first Africa Open Science and Hardware Summit that we had in Ghana, where we gather people coming from different places around the world, having talk and also discussing about the next step and what should be done to really keep improving what is going on about open science, generally speaking, but also about open hardware. And I think out of this big meeting, we have a lot of initiative that's come up about even open publication, but also many projects that is going on out there. Next slide, please. Okay, so since I think December 2021, I started working with Bray, but also with GOSH to be able to connect our Africa community to the global one, because most of the things are going on in the GOSH forum. We have people coming from Africa there, but the interaction need to be we need to improve it. So we are trying our best to bring the good information from the forum, but also every funding opportunity and greeting that GOSH is trying, bring the right information to the Africa community. Basically using the WhatsApp group that we have, where we have all of the people involved in open science and hardware from Africa. But in the same time, we try to crowdsource project information and news about what African makers are doing, and then use it to spread the news also with the global community in the GOSH forum. We have a monthly newsletter, commonly as the main one that Bray used to work on for the GOSH community. So we used to prepare also one for the AfricaOSH community especially, and also keep using the WhatsApp group, bringing up information to people there. The vision actually is to keep improving African makers, scientists, to get more involved in the activities of GOSH. But also really try to figure out what are the main point. Yeah, please. So really try to figure out the main point and the way we can spread the news, but also make more people from Africa understand what the challenges, but also the impact of getting involved in open science and hardware. So the Africa Open Science and Hardware Summit, I think this year is coming up, and you will hear very, very soon about that from Frank. I think Frank is here. Frank can give more insight about that. So I think this is what I can just bring up very quickly. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kafi. About the AfricaOSH Summit, it is coming up this year in Cameroon. The date the date is still being discussed, but when the date is being set, I will let everyone in the community know.
Okay, okay, thank you. So, Bray, I think the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kafid. I just have a couple more slides to go, just wrapping up some GOSH stuff. So I did promise that I would talk a little bit more about how to get started, how to get more involved with GOSH. So if you're new to the community, I recommend the GOSH Welcome Guide. It's just 2 pages long, and it's got basically a short overview of everything that happens in the GOSH community and how to get involved with it. Obviously, when I share back this presentation, after the webinar, you can click on this link to read the guide, but I will also go ahead and drop it in the chat really quick in case any of you would like it sooner than that. So let me go ahead and do that. Yep. So I just shared the guide in the chat for anyone that's interested in looking at that. But I do recommend to just quickly glance at it, read through it as much as you want. It's got a ton of information on GOSH, what we're doing, how to get involved. And you can always introduce yourself on the GOSH forum. We love to see where people are from, what they're up to. So don't be shy. Someone will be excited to meet you if you introduce yourself. Obviously, a couple of other ways to get involved is joining the GOSH forum so that you are able to communicate with people in the community. We do have some regional chat groups such as the AfricaOSH WhatsApp group, which you may have found out about this call on. But the forum is the main communication channel for the broader GOSH community. So if you have a project, want to ask a question, want to say hello, join the forum, and I'm sure someone there will be excited to chat with you more, and I will always be ready to say hello to you when you introduce yourself. So definitely recommend joining the forum. And then there's also a newsletter that you can sign up to that's sent out every month, and it's filled with information not only about GOSH, but just open science hardware in general, what's been happening all over the world. Yeah, it's a nice newsletter to sign up to if you're a newsletter person. If you like reading them, definitely recommend. Yep, this last page here is just all the resources that I mentioned today. Looks like a bunch of text, super overwhelming, but I'm just going to leave this in the presentation. So if anyone had a question about something, wants to visit a page or a link that I discussed, it's all here in the resources page. So yeah. You'll obviously see this when the presentation is shared back, but just thought it would be useful to have the links somewhere in case someone wants to click on stuff. And with that, I think I am done. I think that's every slide I had for you all today. Thank you for listening. It's great to be here at an AfricaOSH webinar. Thank you to Kafid for also presenting. Love the opportunity that we get to present together. So yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kafid and Bree, for your presentations. If anyone has any questions, you could please either put it in the chat box. I have some few questions. Hello? I think someone has their mic on. Okay, so Bree and Kafid, we do have a few questions in the chat box. Okay, someone.
Sorry, Frank, I was just noting one of the questions that I saw. I think I saw 2 comments on making shared documents that are easy to distribute at regional events and local partners, followed by something that's more creative like a Zine, cartoon, things like that. I absolutely agree. This welcome guide is just one resource that could be made out of many. If people want to work on a Zine together or a zine together, I think that would be a fantastic opportunity. I know there's lots of artists in GOSH, so if people wanted to get together and make it more fun and interactive, I'm always up for that. And Julian shared Scriveria as a resource for doing that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I really like all these ideas.
I have a question. I wanted to ask, how do newbies contribute to the GOSH community?
I think that's a great question. I think the best way to contribute to the GOSH community, obviously the deadline's passed for the global gathering, but attending the global gatherings, attending the regional gatherings as well, since there's going to be so many of them coming up this year, that it's a great way to get involved. If you see one that's happening near you, going to one of those, obviously signing up to the forum and just, you know, putting yourself out there. We have a lot of people who will go to the GOSH forum. They'll say, I'm working on this project. I have a question on this. And usually 9 times out of 10, there's always someone that has an answer or wants to work with you on something. So it really depends on what you want out of GOSH. GOSH itself can be a huge resource in terms of just reading the newsletter every month until you find something that really stands out to you and is what you're looking for. If you want to really start a project, just put your idea out into the forum and someone will definitely see it. It's a huge network, a huge community of people. So just by signing up and looking around and seeing who's there, you'll definitely see all sorts of cool stuff. And the regional funding and collaborative programs, they've ended this year, but they'll likely be back again next year. So once those calls and applications come out again, applying to those is a great way to get involved. And really, it's up to everyone and what everyone wants to do with their own personal agency. I'm happy to help out with anything, but you can send me an email. I'm happy to talk one-on-one with you and figure out what you want to be doing with GOSH. If you have more questions with GOSH, it's an open community, clearly. So very, very easy. But that was a good question. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. I think you responded to Gami's question. I don't know if you saw it. He wants to know if there are plans to continue the original funding in the future.
I'm not sure if I saw that, but I'll go ahead and answer it. I definitely think there are plans to keep the regional funding going forward. Of course, that means that GOSH will have to continue its fundraising efforts. So if we can continue to get funds to support the community, that will in turn allow us to have more regional funding. And I know right now that that's something that's being discussed with the GOSH Council. They're trying to sort out more plans for what they want to see done in 2023, later in 2022. So yes, that is a good question. That's something that the GOSH Council, the governing body of GOSH, is thinking about and working on, but we're hoping that we'll have some more in the next year.
Awesome. Thanks, Bray. If anyone has any question, you can type it in the chat box, or you could just raise your hand so you ask either Bray or Kafi. I don't see any hands raised. There are no more questions in the chat box also.
Did anyone have any specific questions about REGOSH or AfricaOSH? I know I saw at one point there was some interest in talking a bit more with people from REGOSH. I'm not sure if that interest is still there.
Hi. Hello. I'm Nano. I did change my name. I'm not Brian and Jones.
I will change it now.
Yeah, I changed it. Okay, thanks. So, yeah, I was interested in, I don't know, in seeing like a way to dialogue with AfricaOSH. I mean, I'm part of REGOSH. I think I'm kind of, I think there are many similarities between AfricaOSH and REGOSH, but also many differences. Many things that are not so, or are like very different. because there are very different realities. Even in Latin America, we have like different realities. But I think, I mean, what are like our needs or our context is closer to the African context than the European, or I don't know, or the North American context. And so, I don't know, we didn't have like a, or we don't have like this instance to talk about our needs or our context or our visions. So maybe that is something that we can, I don't know, think about, and I don't know, at some point like propose somewhere, maybe for the next funding or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, Frank, do you want to go for that?
You go, you go.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have a lot of similarity talking about Africa and your region basically, because mostly I think we have challenges, and also the fact that open science and hardware can and should be really important to try to solve some issue of those countries. But there is still a work that need to be done, as you just raised it, about, I think, first of all, we trying to analyze what are the pain points, that maybe difficulties or challenging that, I don't know, maybe making people to not be in 100% in the open hardware and open science and hardware stuff. So if I may speculate or even brainstorm now, I think what we should be trying is a first analysis of, the organization of people and the way we can really try to figure out some strategies to push forward people. The second thing about the funding, I think, yeah, the funding is really open for everyone, as Brad just raised it. But if we try to have this way of working together, maybe AfricaOSH and RIGOSH, that would be impressive. Bringing, doing something collectively is more powerful than everyone doing in his hand cluster. This is what I can just say about your comments. I don't know if Frank want to add something. Yeah.
Yeah, I just have a couple of things to say. I do think the idea of Africa, us, and Rigosh collaborating is an interesting one, and I, for one, I look forward to it. So I think that's a splendid idea. That it's something that we could work on. Maybe Gosh could come on board and offer support or collaboration. That would be awesome.
Yeah. I just put my email on the chat, but it's always possible even break and give us our contact, and even we have our WhatsApp group, we can add you guys, and then we need to have a kind of meeting, I guess, just to discuss about how we can work together and make things happen. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that maybe we can have a small talk between us, and then I don't know, start from there. We have like this. We have like coordinators for every node in the in the network in Rios. So maybe we can have like in the next Rios meeting, we can have one or two of you or three, or I don't know, as many as you want, and we can start this conversation and see where it goes. And I don't know, maybe we can come up with something, with some ideas to work together.
Yes, why not? I'm definitely open and looking forward for that.
All right. I think Gamel also had. If Nano is done, I think Gamel had his hand raised.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Gameli Ajao. I'm based in Accra, Ghana, part of Just One Giant Lab. Yeah, my question was somewhat similar to Nano's. I was quite curious to find out, especially from Cafe, whether like there were any ideas, especially to increase, the participation of, like he said, that was his role, to basically increase the participation of AfricaOSH or African members in GOSH. Because a lot has been said about how GOSH is trying to do the outreach work, reach more people, but what's the, I guess, what are some of the ideas that can be exploited to achieve the opposite outcome? Initiatives, ideas coming out from AfricaOSH or from the African ecosystem. How is that also being brought into the GOSH's attention?
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think we started since January by just crossing information between the two community, but also start publishing the opportunities that out of the current AfricaOSH community that we have in our WhatsApp group. So we were also thinking about and strategies to maybe get involved students, in universities who are in the fields and maybe interested about working on some code project that is going on there. So that's the second plan we are thinking about. I don't know if you have another suggestion for any strategy that we can just use to keep improving the participation, basically.
Yeah, I think that those are some good ideas. I mean, my work is about getting more African involvement and participation, and also support for people working on different types of open science and innovation type projects. So definitely, if this is a conversation you think that I can play a role in, or we can sort of like, exchange on and try to collaborate, I'm definitely open to it. Yeah. But it's just something that I'm broadly interested in, because there's always this thing about moving something to come to Africa and then be part of it and get people to be involved. But also it's very important to kind of try to identify what's important to people and what they are working on, and try to support that. And I think that GOSH it's very interested and focused on doing that, but there has to be strategies to achieve that. Otherwise, it'll be the same business as usual in terms of outcomes.
Yeah. I think we also brainstorm about a study, basically. Even for the recent call, I just submit myself a funding to be able to try to make those analysis I was talking about, really look deeper on, the problem, why people are not getting involved. Maybe we don't know exactly why people are not getting involved. So that would be better just to, start from the literature, and also coming up with some small study, discuss with people to really find the key point, and that could help GOSH actually to improve the Africa strategy. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, this is Kwaje Steven from Africa, Uganda, the founder of Creative Innovation Center. I think it's my first time attending this meeting, because I've heard you discuss on, they've really helped us a lot in Africa. Concerning maybe getting more members for GOSH, is just like sometimes when we are trying to set time for the meeting, we have to really, because us in Africa also our time is somehow different. So if you can put in a way that also it can also cater for us, because some of us really, you get the time and you find only to log in, you find that meeting has ended, just because normally you put the time in, like sometimes as if there's a way you can make work easier for the time, like in GMT to be, I think, better. To be, because last time I really apologize for the inconveniences. Because we, as the CIC group, we could not just presentation due to network problem, because being refugees in the camp, our networks are a very big problem. So if you can do us a favor, there are some videos like I will send the videos as the CIC group to you. If you can edit those videos and upload them, I think that one, when other colleagues of ours see those videos, they can be able to be motivated and join the ghost group as well, because the video that which was uploaded due to network problem, it was not all that clear. So if you can use those videos that were sent for you for the presentations, like those projects, so if you can edit them and upload them on the YouTube, I think it also be of great importance. And when our colleagues sees, they can also be inspired to follow what we are supposed to. That's the request to put forward, because it's my first time attending the meeting. I've been somehow busy. I'm the co-founder, I'm the founder of the Creative Innovation Center, Rhino Camp Refugee Settlement, Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this great insight. I think we can definitely try to work on that sense.
Definitely. I did receive those videos and I shared them back with the community, but I'm happy to upload the videos themselves as actual YouTube videos too. So I'm sure I can do that within the next week and send it back to you all from CIC. I think I missed, you broke up a little bit. I missed the question about the time for meetings. I've been scheduling meetings in UTC time. So I've said that stuff is at UTC. Should I continue doing that, or would you like for me to have multiple time zones listed so that no one misses the meeting time?
Yeah, actually, that's what I was emphasizing, because most of us are not sometimes used to GMT. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyone got any more questions for Bree and Kathy?
Hello, everyone. My name is Joel. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
So my name is Joel from Tanzania. We're working with students. We have a makerspace called DAT Design Studio. And our aim is to make sure every student who, I'm going back to the topic where, like we say, we want to involve more student innovation and to make African great. So our approach or our goals is to make sure like we have maximum numbers of students who works as innovators. So we take students, we engage with students in like 95% of things that we're doing in the makerspace or design studio. We're working with the students, so we go to the field, we find problem, they solve it, and then they do a lot of innovation also. So the idea of working with students is a good approach, especially for us, where we try to grow and not to depend on imported things. So we encourage them to use available resources and then to create a sustainable solution for ourselves.
Oh, cool. That's one of the greatest use case that maybe we can just try to share throughout our next communication. If you could also drop your contact in the chat, that would be very great to reach out to you after to find a way to get involve your student in what we are doing in the GOSH community also.
All right, thank you, Joel, for that. Anybody else got a question for Bree and Kathy? Okay. Okay, so Bree, I wanted to ask about the GOSH Summit in Panama. How invited guests who have been specifically from Africa who are low on funds. Is there anything that Gosh is doing to help Africans who are low on funds to come to Panama for the Gosh uh, for the Panama event?
That is a really good question. So the Gosh Gathering Working Group, right now we're still deciding how we will deal with the stipends out to people that are from either different regions, different countries, or can't afford to pay for the flight to come over, all sorts of stuff like that. The Gathering Working Group is deciding how we're going to do that, whether we will open up and do a lottery for people and maybe 20 out of 30 people who need it will get something, or if we'll give more people partial funding and some people will get full. As a working group, we are still working on a plan for that and we don't have it fully set up yet. But if you have applied and received the last email that we sent to you, we'll definitely be sending a follow-up in the coming weeks with our plan for how we're going to give out stipends to everyone. We do have about 50K, I believe, left in the budget that can be set aside for travel funding. We're hoping that we can fundraise to get some more or find some people that can at least donate $200, $250 to pay registration fees to help out other people for coming. But we definitely have slots open and we definitely want to have folks from Africa attend. So we'll just have to decide how much of that is going to be partially funding people to come, how much is going to be fully funded, if we're going to give like a certain amount to certain regions or whether everyone in the pool can apply and we'll just select randomly. These are really big and really important questions that the Gathering Working Group is working on and wants to figure it out, because obviously we want as many people to attend as possible and we don't want money to be the limiting factor. So we're continuing to fundraise, getting as much money as we can, because it would be great to fund everyone to come over. But yes, in the coming weeks, we'll be sending out more information on how we'll do the stipend and travel funding process.
Thank you, Bree. And one more thing about the gathering, I wanted to know, is it going to be hybrid for some people who can't make it to the gathering in Panama? Is it going to be hybrid or live streamed, or are there going to be videos of the gathering for people to access and also?
Yeah, that's another really good question. We have been talking about different hybrid options because the conference is this sort of unconference style where you don't know what different workshops are going to be happening, what different groups are going to be meeting, and most of it is planned together when we get there. It makes the hybrid option a little bit more difficult, but right now we're thinking of at least recording like the main talks and sharing it back with the community. Stuff like that. So yeah, having like the main talks, any speakers recorded, sharing it back with the community. And also we're trying to experiment with some sort of hybrid documentation process. Like if we can have a group of people that are just documenting everything that's going on in real time during the gathering and sharing it back with the community on the forum. That would be cool to have this kind of intense hybrid documentation process going. Someone that's updating the Twitter all the time so people can see what's going on. So I guess the short answer is it's a little bit difficult to fully make the event fully hybrid, but there are some aspects of it that we'd like to share back so people who aren't there can see it.
All right, thank you, Bray.
I'm not sure, Andreas and Mark, if you had a question with the chicken foot or we're just showing it. Yeah.
Later.
No, we're just showing off.
That's cool.
Okay, so I don't see any more questions in the chat box. So can I assume that we don't have any more questions for Bree and Kathy? Okay, so um, in the absence of any more questions, we would like to thank um, Kafid and Brianna for making the time to educate us on Gosh and their activities. And I would like to thank everyone for being a part of this webinar. You guys make the community active, and that's important. That's good for the growth of the open science hardware community. So on that note, um, we have 5 more minutes till the meeting is over. So we'd like to close off. If anyone has anything else to say, Bree, Kafi.
Oh yeah, I see someone ask a question on the chat, Frank.
Oh, okay. Um, let me see. He says, I would love to hear some updates on AfricaOSH event. How are you preparing? How can you remotely contribute? Oh, okay. For the AfricaOSH event, the summit was supposed to come off next month, June, but due to two circumstances, we had to push it further back. But we will communicate the new date to everyone. But all I can say is it is happening in Cameroon at Emoa Lab. But the further details will be communicated sorry, will be communicated to everybody in due course. So please bear with us. And Akinloe, yes, please, we do have a recording. Recording will be sent to everyone's personal email address. Or I think it's better it will be posted on our socials and it will be sent to everyone's personal email address also. All right. Okay. So thank you all for making the time. Thank you, Kafi. And we would see you guys in the next AfricaOSH event, hopefully at the summit.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, all of you, and we'll be happy discussing with you. If you need anything else from AfricaOSH community or any information, I think I'm available. Frank also. Yeah, we are always welcoming you to provide you any information you need. So thank you again.
Thank you for hosting this, Frank. And thank you to everyone that came and asked questions. Really appreciate it. Nice seeing you all as always.
All right. Okay. Have a lovely day, guys.
Okay. Yeah.
Bye.
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 Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you all.